everybody, this is Michelle with Creative Operation and Country Craft Creations. Welcome back to my craft room. Tonight we are going to be doing a little tutorial on this notebook that I created. I did share some pictures in Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations, which is a Facebook group that you can get into. All you have to do is go to countrycraftcreations.com and go to the About Us, and you will find links to the Facebook group, and then you can request to be a member. So I shared it and I kind of wrote down what I did. It's very, very simple. But then, so once I got this one done, which this is the beautiful Country Craft Creations Papers Fall Breeze, which is absolutely a stunning paper collection. After I did this, I got an idea, and so I dug out my Remember the Time papers, and this is a calendar paper collection that was put out last year, and it was absolutely a stunning collection. And so I just decided I was going to make a project with this. So let's look at the project here real quick. So it's just a simple seam binding closure, and it literally just comes right off. And then it's just a little kind of a trifold notebook with just using pattern paper. There's no cardstock, there's no chipboard, there's no nothing. It's just pattern paper. I had some leftover pieces. I wanted to just try this, so I put this together. It opens up, has a simple pocket here and then one here, and then I used some of my coffee dyed papers, and I just sewed a signature in here. I put a belly band in the back so that you could put little notes and things and whatnot in it, but it's just really super simple. So I wanted to just show you how I did this and do a tutorial on exactly how I did this, and then I'm going to show you how I decorated. I'm going to be making one for every month. So I want to show you how I'm going to decorate it. This one was decorated pretty simply. I just used the reverse of the paper that was left over when I cut this, and I put a little cover on this front flap, and then I added a cut apart that I cut down, and it's just a super simple notebook, but very effective and very, very easy to do. So its total width is 4.5 by, this one was 8. I'm making this one 8.5. so that it's easier and you don't have to cut a whole bunch of papers up any more than you need to. So I did make the size a little bit bigger on the one we're going to make tonight. The pages in the book are 4 inches, so when you cut your papers, they will be 8 inches. I'll go over this, but anyway, it's a nice kind of notebook, like a traveler's notebook. It's basically that kind of size. So let's get started with the tutorial. I'm going to put this off to the side, and we're going to make it. So the first thing we're going to need to do is take your paper. I'm using pattern paper only, and I am cutting it at 11 3/4 wide, and I'm cutting it at 8 and 5/8, no, 8.5 inch tall. If you can put your ruler on your paper the proper way, I'll give you the proper measurement. So let's do that again. 11 3/4 inch wide by 8.5 tall. Okay, that's all you're going to need to do for that. And then I took my scoreboard and I put it in my scoreboard, and I scored at 3 and I scored at 7.5. Okay, it's all the scoring that you're going to have to do. And then we're going to turn it over and we're just going to fold it. Isn't this paper pretty? So what this is going to give you is a 4 1/4 inch wide panel here. You're going to have a 4.5 inch panel on the back. And then this front piece will fold over and give you a 3 inch panel for the front of the notebook. And that is literally all there is to that. After I got done doing that, then I'm going to take my chomper here, and I'm just going to round my corners. Okay, and I'm doing all 4 of them. Oop, didn't do that one very well. Let's do that again. There we go. And I'm doing it on the 1/4 inch. You could do it on 1/2 inch, whatever you want to do. So then the next thing we're going to do is look at our papers. So our papers that I did, these are going to be, I'm not using coffee dyed papers on these. I'm using just plain old copy paper and some dot grid paper that I had in my stash. So these are 8.5 by 8. So 8 wide, 8.5 tall. And we're going to just simply, we're going to put this over to the side. We're going to fold them in half. So you're going to fold over so that you have a piece that's 8.5 tall by 4 inches wide. Okay. So just make sure, double check when you fold them that you don't fold them the wrong direction, because we want this basically to be the same height as the cover. Okay. So I'm going to do that. And I alternated my dot grid paper and my regular copier paper just to have a little bit of a difference. You could use, like I did on the first one that I showed you with the fall papers, you could use, you know, coffee dyed papers. You can, oh, and look what I did. I did it the wrong way. All right, do-over. I just had to cut a new paper because I folded it the wrong direction. So that's not what you want to do. You want to make sure that you fold it in the proper direction, and you want it to be 4 inches wide by 8.5 inches tall. So pay attention to your papers, okay, people? Don't do what I did. So anyway, what was I saying? You can use any kind of paper you want. You can raid your cupboards, and you can, you know, use, you could take, you know, grid paper out of notebooks. You know, you could use filler paper if you wanted to. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can use any kind of paper you want. This is your notebook, right? So I'm just folding all of the leaves the same, and you can put as many as you want in here. I just decided to use 7 per notebook. Have no idea why I came to that number, but I did. So I'm alternating them with plain white and with my dot grid. So after I fold them, and I do encourage you to go ahead and fold them, I'm just going to alternate them back in each other. So it'll be, you know, start with a plain piece, and then it'll go to dot grid and so on. Okay. So then once I do that, I'm going to make sure they're nice and even, okay? And then I'm going to grab this. Now, I don't have a book cradle, which is something that you can put a signature in when you sew them in together. I don't have a good one. I need to buy one, but I cannot find one that I like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just tucking it into that fold, okay? So I'm just putting the signature into that fold, making sure everything's still nice and lined up and everything, and I'm getting it in there as far as I can. And then what I've been doing, and this is a pretty neat trick, but with the Tim Holtz ruler that I did get from Country Craft Creations, I'm putting it in there with the kind of pointy edge in there, and I'm pushing down against my hand to try to really set the edge of the papers into that crease, okay? And then I'm going to take one of my clips, and I'm going to clip that while it's still in there nice and tight. One of these days when I do get a book cradle, I'll do this differently, but this works right now pretty well. So what I've tried to do, if you can see that, is make it really nice and tight in that crease. And then what we're going to do is we're going to poke holes in it so we can sew. We're going to do a pamphlet stitch. So I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to just lay it in here. I'm going to center it. So if you can see this, the center is here, and it goes 4 1/4 to 4 1/4. And I'm just going to kind of hold it up. So I'm kind of doing my own book cradle with my hands so that that point is kind of straight down. And I'm going to, after I make sure it's centered, I'm going to poke right into that crease all the way down. And then I'm going to make sure everything's still good. And I'm going to poke it at 3 on the other side and 3 on this side. Okay, so now what I have is a hole in the center, and then 3 inches this way and 3 inches this way. And we're going to do a simple pamphlet stitch on this. So once you've done that, then take your needle and thread, and I am using bookbinding thread that I have in my stash. You can get this at craft stores. It's just a really nice heavy bookbinding thread. It's already pre-waxed and everything else. So, and then I've got a bookbinding needle. All you need is basically a sharp sewing needle. You need some heavy duty kind of, you know, string. If you're using twine, just be careful. Twine is not near as strong as this. And if you, when you pull it tight, you can you know, break the twine. So just be careful, you know, what you're using. But again, this is bookbinding string that I have. So when you do a pamphlet stitch, so you have the 3 holes, what you're going to do is I'm going to start from the inside. So the knot will end up inside my book. Now, I wanted to keep the outside without a knot, okay? If you want the knot on the outside, you just start from the outside and go through the middle. But the point is that you start with the middle hole first, and you pull your thread through and leave a tail because you're going to be tying that, okay? So then when you turn your piece over, then go through one of the other holes on the back, okay? So we came up through the middle. We're going to go down through that hole right there and come back up through the middle. Okay, and just don't pull your thread through, okay? Then you're going to go all the way to the top hole on the inside, okay? Like so. Don't pull your thread through. And then we're going to go back up through the middle hole again, okay? And come out through the center of your book. Now, when you do this, so at this point, you should have your 2 ends of your thread, and you should have this middle piece. You need one end of the thread on each side of that middle piece. So I'm just going to make sure that I have one piece on either side of that. I'm going to take that needle off so I don't hurt myself. And then you're just going to pull it tight, okay? Just pull it tight, and it will stay and it will set. And then you're going to tie a square knot, okay? So I'm just going to do that square knot like so, pulling it nice and tight. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut it, and I'm going to leave, I don't know, about a 1/2 inch or so, and it will show in the middle of your signature, but that's okay. It's a journal. It's for me. It's okay. It's going to work. And then the signature is actually in and it's done. Now, all we're going to do is decorate. So I'm very excited about this part. I wanted to incorporate the calendars from this paper collection, but the calendar is a little bit too wide. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this about 1/4 inch off each side, because the measurement for here is 4 3/4 wide. So I'm going to cut off, I'm going to line it up at 4.5, and I'm going to just trim that off and then turn it around, line it up at 4 1/4, and trim that off. So you're essentially taking off 1/4 inch off of each side, and that's going to make it narrow enough to fit in the belly band that we're going to be putting in there. So I'm going to take my corner rounder again, and I'm just going to round the corners of this. Now, the other thing too, I did not ink any of my edges. I didn't feel like I wanted to. You certainly could do that if you wanted to. It would be absolutely lovely, excuse me, but I didn't want to do that because of the nature of the white paper, and I didn't want to get like ink on my white paper. Now, on the one that I did with the fall papers, I did ink the edges because I've got distressed papers in there, and it would just kind of add to the look if I got some on there. But for this one, I did not want to do that. So the cover is going to go like this. Let's get this off to the side for a second. And I'm going to cut a piece of paper that is part of this paper collection. Now, you'll notice it's not the same ladies as, you know, like it's not the opposite side that I'm going to put on the front on this one, because the bottom of it, when I cut that off, the ladies were going sideways, and that would look kind of silly if the ladies were going sideways on the front. So what I did was I went through my stash of papers that I have from this calendar collection, and I chose this guy here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open my notebook so it's flat, and I'm going to put glue on here and glue this down. And this is just going to reinforce the cover a little bit. It's going to break up the pattern in the paper a little bit and give us a place to kind of embellish the front. So it's going to add a little bit of, you know, interest and a little bit of color to that, and also a little bit of strength. So I'm just going to press that down, make sure it's nice and stuck. All right, that part is done. So then I'm going to go into the inside, and then the next thing I wanted to do was make a pocket of some sort here. And I decided, and some of the notebooks that I did this on, I did this. So these were the strips from the cutaparts that you had with this paper collection. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just I'm going to layer these together to make kind of a wider piece of paper. So I'm going to just put a little bit of glue here, and we're going to create a piece for a pocket. And I'm going to lay that down right over the top. Make sure it's nice and even. Okay. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So it's going to be kind of a striped piece once I get done putting it all together. And I'm just laying it on my grid to, let me get that out of the way, so that I can just kind of make sure everything's lined up, okay? That's why I'm using this grid for this particular project, since I'm kind of piecing things together. So I'm going in about, you know, 1/8 of an inch and just layering that on top, okay? And then what I'm going to do is find my little rag here and make sure there's no glue. I'm going to grab my trimmer. Now this front panel is 4 1/4 inches. I'm going to cut it just shy of 4 1/4 inches, so like minus a 1/16, because I don't want the bend of the front cover to get hindered. So I'm going to, it's 4 1/4, so I'm just going to back it off like a 1/16 of an inch, and I'm going to cut that piece off. And then I'm going to corner around the bottom so it'll match the curve of the bottom of my paper. And then I'm going to grab, where did it go? So we have our pocket. I corner around it so it'll match the cover. And then I'm going to grab this little medallion, and I'm just going to put it in the middle, and that's going to decorate the pocket, and it's going to be really pretty. So I'm going to do that. This is from the cutaparts, again, from the paper collection, and it's all stuff I had left over. So I'm just eyeball centering this one. Make sure my snowflake is right. Glue that down. That's going to be on the top of the pocket. Okay. And then on the back, so the back here, I'm going to use tape, and I'm going to cover those seams so that my tags and things slip in nicely. And I'm just going to go, my tape is wide enough, it's going over both edges of the pocket. So if your tape isn't wide enough, use 2 pieces, but that will work out just fine. So now it's kind of nice and smooth. And then I'm going to take my notebook, I'm just going to glue it in. So I'm just going to put glue on all 3 sides here, just on the edges. And this is more decorative than anything else, but you still could use it as a pocket. And you know, I intended this to be kind of like a journal for the month of, you know, each month that I'm making them for. So I'm not intending it to be like really a planner. It's more like just a notebook, journal, maybe a running to-do list, a place to mark stuff down, whatever you want to use it for. But that's what I'm intending. So that's why I didn't put a whole lot of papers in it. It's going to be for each month. Oh, and I should show you. So these are from the cut-apart pages. So I'm just adding those as pretties in here. Okay. So that part is done. On the back, I want to add a belly band so that I can put my calendar in here. So I'm going to take these 2 pieces that were part of the cut-aparts, and I'm going to just glue them together, and then I'm going to use this medallion over the center, and then we're going to just trim it and have our piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue these 2 together to make a long enough piece. All right. I'm overlapping it about a 1/2 inch or so. And this is how I'm doing pretty much all of the notebooks. Okay, so they're basically all going to be the same design here. I'm using up scraps is what I'm doing. So then we're just going to put a little glue down the middle of this little medallion. Okay, and I'm just trying to center it. nicely here. Let's see if that works. And that looks pretty darn good to me. All right, I'm just gonna glue that, whoop. And it did want to move a little bit, but it doesn't really matter if you get it centered at this point. You just want it over the seam. We're going to center it in the notebook when we put it in, okay? And then if you want, you can put a little piece of tape like over that seam here, and then your calendar will slide in and out really nicely. All right, so then we can measure this. So our notebook is 8 and a half tall. So you can take a pencil if you want, and if I can find my pencil, that would be a really good thing. What did I do with it? Here it is. Okay, and just make a tick mark at 4 1/4. Okay, and then we can cut that off. And I'm going to use the grid on my board here, or on my scoreboard. This is scoreboard on my cutter. Good gravy. All right, so I'm just going to cut that off. So that'll be at the bottom. So this is kind of like the easiest way to make sure that you have this, you know, your medallion kind of centered in the middle and all that. I mean, you know, I'm sure there's other ways to do it. But this is how I'm doing it. So there you go. I am centering it on my grid here. And you can use your ruler if you want to, but I'm just gonna do that. And then if you use your ruler, you can just do that. And we're gonna glue that down right in the center, okay? So this is 4 1/2 wide, this panel. So I'm lining it up so the 0 and it's 2 1/4. And I'm just gonna put a little glue here. And I'm gonna center that. And these are just shy of 1 inch wide. All right. And then that'll go up like that. Make sure it's nice and straight. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to hold this down while lifting this up. And put a little glue there. Glue that piece down. So now you have a nice little belly band. And then all you have to do is grab scissors and trim that off. Like so. And you have your belly band. And then you have this little calendar that you could fit in right there. Okay? So there's that. Now the last thing that I'm going to do is we're going to put a little embellishment up here. And then I'm also going to use one of these little tickets. I just love them. So I used some sort of cut apart on the inside flap on my notebooks just because I wanted to. And I could go back and add some stuff to the pages. Haven't decided if I'm going to do that or not. And I totally could. Would be really pretty if I did. But we'll have to see because, like I said, I am using what I have left over from different things that I've made with this kit. So I just kind of wanted to see what I could do with them. So the inside's done. We have our pocket here, and it's nice and decorated, and we made it out of banner strips. So that's a really cool way of using those. Then I used the banner strips put together to make a belly band. Added this little medallion on the inside, and it's just beautiful, and no one would ever tell that it was, you know, 2 pieces that I put together. Your calendar can go here. You can put papers back here, whatever. We got a little embellishment here. So when you fold it over, now here's the front cover. I'm going to use this and probably that somehow. Let's see. I like the medallion. I don't know. Maybe something like that. Just something pretty, something, just a little something, something. So I think I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna add a little glue here. Put that down. A little pop of color. And then I'm gonna add my little cardinal here. And again, this is all from the cut-aparts that come with the kit. They're still available. They are at countrycraftcreations.com. Search for Remember the Time. If you haven't had this in your stash, you need it. And if you do have it in your stash, let's use it. So then the last thing I did, that's it. Pretty much that's it. It's just a nice little notebook, and I like that it's not super embellished. You could throw it in your purse or your book bag or whatever, and you could have like a little journal or, you know, however you want to use this, and it's just really pretty. So then I'm just going to take my ribbon. I went through my stash, and I just grabbed ribbon that I thought would be really pretty with it. And I thought I loved the teal kind of color in this. And I'm just going to tie a simple bow. And that's the closure, and that is like all she wrote for this one. That's it. It's all done. So that's it. Yeah, that's it. It's really easy. It's really, really easy. So I did wrap it around twice. That does give you a little bit of extra room. So in case it bulks up or you use, you know, more papers or whatever, you add things in the pockets. You have a little bit of extra room. Oops, let's make sure that... Oh, yeah, I tied that, or actually, I'm just going to do this. There we go. All right, so then, I am going to seal the edges of my ribbon, and I know a lot of you do this. I'm just going to grab this lighter, and I'm just going to real quick just seal it just a little bit. I don't want it to frazzle or, you know, fray or anything like that. If you're using seam binding, do not do this. It will catch on fire. Trust me on that one. Tie a knot and cut it. You can do it however you want. So there's that. So I will be back in a second, and I'm going to show you the whole complete set. All right, everybody. So what started off with just kind of a real fun idea to make a traveler style notebook using some coffee dyed papers and this beautiful Fall Breeze collection has turned into making all 12 of these beautiful notebooks using Remember the Time. This is a collection by Country Craft Creations. It's awesome. So I'll real quick just show you the covers, and then we'll open one up and I'll show you another one. I know we did this one during the tutorial. What I did do is I went back through and I put the names of the months on the fronts of each of the notebooks. So I did go back and do that. And I also went back and I rounded the corners on my papers, so they're all the same. But let's just real quick go through. So there's January, February, that's pretty. There's March, April, May, so beautiful. I love these papers. June, there's July, August, September, October, November, and December. So there you go. So let's open up, let's open up November, since we are in the month of November. So again, they're all just tied with a ribbon from my stash that I wanted to, you know, just use, and I thought that matched the colors, so they're all different. These are from the cut apart papers, and I did they were a long ticket, and I just cut them off and then put them at the bottom here. And some of them I trimmed because like the border around this one was the same as the paper there, so I didn't want it to blend in. But like, for example, this one here, I have the whole border around that because the orange paper set it off. So I did trim some of them a little bit, and then you open it up, and this one I put the Admit One sticker back there. And then I made a pocket. This one I just made a simple little slant pocket using some of the leftover papers that I had, and I added the little turkey cut apart here. And in the pocket, each pocket has 3 elements in them, and they might be 2 tags, but all of them have a journaling spot as well. And so those are just in the pocket here. And then, like I said, I did go back and round the corners here. I decided I wanted to do that. And then each one, again, has a belly band with the calendar in the back. And I have a medallion on each of the belly bands as well. And they just fold up and go back into the notebook. And then I just wrap the ribbon around and tie it back up. I'm trying to make it make it so it's nice and has even ends, but this is my notebook collection. So I know some of you are thinking now I need something to put that in, as far as like maybe a box or something, and I might work on that. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that yet, but if I do, I will definitely do a tutorial and show you that. So that is my project here. These are my monthly Remember the Time notebook folios, I guess you could call them, and I think that they turned out just absolutely gorgeous. So please go to Country Craft Creations at countrycraftcreations.com and check out this paper collection. If you don't have it, you need it. I'm telling you, you need it. It's absolutely gorgeous. So thanks for watching. Have a great crafty day. Talk to you later, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.